Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Satya Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. It is Monday, January the 8th, 2024 in New York, and we are continuing where we left off, which was in the third canto, chapter 27, text number 8. We're going through a series of verses spoken by Lord Kapila which Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the verses between 6 and 11 are a single sentence. And in Prabhupada's translations and commentaries, they have sizable commentaries. So we were going through one paragraph and pausing at a time. And so we didn't get through the whole purport to text number 8 yesterday. We just got through the first paragraph. And in fact, we had 2 outstanding contributions at the end, 1 comment and 1 question that we didn't have time to address on Friday. So if it would be all right with Maharaj, can we perhaps address those? I'm looking to see if the people that made the points are here, and they are not. So we'll wait. The people that made those comments and questions are not in the assembly at present. So we'll chant the verse again, and then we'll pick up with the commentary, starting with paragraph number 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just get to our text window. I have too many windows open here. So the verse is Yadrichchayo Palabdhena Santushto Mitabun Munihi Vivikta Sharanaha Shanto Maitraha Karuna Atmavan. For his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. He should not eat more than what is necessary. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. So, picking up with paragraph number 2 of the purport. Another word here is mitabuk. This means that one should eat only as much as necessary to maintain the body and soul together. One should not be gluttonous to satisfy the tongue. Grains, fruits, milk, and similar foods are allotted for human consumption. One should not be excessively eager to satisfy the tongue and eat that which is not meant for humanity. Particularly, a devotee should eat only prasad, or food which is offered to the personality of Godhead. His position is to accept the remnants of those foodstuffs. Innocent foods like grains, vegetables, fruits, flowers, and milk preparations are offered to the Lord, and therefore there is no scope for offering foods which are in the modes of passion and ignorance. A devotee should not be greedy. It is also recommended that the devotee should be muni, or thoughtful. He should always think of Krishna and how to render better service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That should be his only anxiety. As a materialist is always thoughtful about improving his material condition, a devotee's thoughts should always be engaged in improving his condition in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he should be a muni. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Mita book, not to overeat, reminds us of the 6th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's advising Arjuna that you can't be a yogi if you eat too much or eat too little. I was looking at one of the classes that Prabhupada gave on that verse, and this is underscores one of the questions that came up that hopefully we can get a chance to address if the asker of the question shows up. But it's a question of the relative satisfaction of the individual living entity, because everybody is an individual, and what satisfies one individual may not satisfy another. But Prabhupada is speaking about he's speaking on this verse. He said, therefore it is said, there is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. And he says, if you try to become immediately Raghunath Das Goswami by imitating, you'll fail. Whatever progress you have made, that will be finished. No, not that. You eat, but don't eat more. That's all. Eating more is no good. You eat. If you are elephant, you eat 100 pounds. But if you are ant, you eat 1 grain. Don't eat 100 pounds imitating the elephant. You see, God has given food to the elephant and to the ant. But if you are actually elephant, then you eat like elephant. But if you are ant, don't eat like elephant. Then you'll be in trouble. So, yeah. We each need to know what our limits are and stay within them. Recently, I learned something about it's not a pandemic, but it's certainly a prevalent condition, at least in the United States, of people that have acid reflux problems. They can't digest, and then the acid comes back up because there's not enough stomach acid to digest what people are eating. And what's generally recommended, and I think this goes along very reasonably with what's being said here, is that to prevent this from happening, don't eat beyond the point that you start belching, because that's a sign that the stomach acid is being neutralized by what you're putting down there. So you can take it or leave it as a practical guideline, but I find that it works for me. Yeah. And so also, yeah, also in that in the purport to 6:16, where Krishna's telling Arjuna, you can't eat too much or eat too little, you can't maintain your yoga practice. He says that a person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. I thought that was an interesting point. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. One time there was a morning walk in Vishakhapatnam. All the devotees were going out with Prabhupada to walk on the beach. And Gurudas Prabhu Senior, Prabhupada's Gurudas, relates how he just noticed that everybody was out the door except him. So he ran out the door without even putting his shoes on. And between him and Prabhupada and the devotees, there were a bunch of rocks covered with barnacles. And he was like hot-footing it and was picking his feet way high up and just in great pain, running to where Prabhupada was. And Prabhupada just stopped and looked at him running towards him. He said, what? Why don't you put on your shoes? And Gurudas said, When I'm with you, Srila Prabhupada, I don't feel any pain. And Prabhupada said, well, then why don't you cut your own throat? And all the devotees got a good laugh, including Gurudas. And Prabhupada went on to say that there is enough tapasya already. Don't create your own. So that goes along with here, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. So, Maharaj, did you have anything you wanted to add on that point before we move on?
Yeah, a few things. You made a lot of good points there. Eating more than required. The one thought is that we, even in prasadam, we're sort of encouraged to eat up to the neck and so on. We have a culture of feasting, but if we feast every day, we will be in trouble. The Prabhupada in one lecture said that a child should eat more and an old man should eat less. An old child can't eat too much and an old man can't eat too little. So that tendency is there, I think, in myself, at least I'll preach to myself, of wanting to eat more, going beyond what we actually need, eating more to be satisfied, and then, of course, winding up unsatisfied, because if we eat more, we become weighted down, and the mind becomes slow, the body becomes slow, everything becomes slow by overeating. And just because the machinery is not meant to have more, and I know growing up it was, we were always encouraged to eat everything on our plate. And because I can't exactly figure out the logic, but because children were starving in Europe after World War II, we should eat more. We should eat whatever was on our plate. And so this mentality may stick with us that we should eat more, but eating more when we're older is not recommended. And also not, as you pointed out, not eating less. Yadubara Prabhu testified to this, how he was following some diet and sort of wasting away, and Prabhupada got on his case. You should eat prasadam, not all these outlandish diets, faddish diets. But don't eat more and don't eat less. Just take Krishna prasadam in reasonable amounts, and yogo bhavati dukkha, you'll get free from all miseries. So it's really crucial, actually. If we eat less, we can't be too much. We'll be, and if we eat more, we'll definitely be in trouble. Another point is that Prabhupada's talking about just eating Krishna prasadam, and we were discussing here in Salem this point the other day. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was speaking about it, how it becomes sort of okay to eat anything vegetarian. And that's not recommended for us. That's not recommended for us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Vishayir anna koile dushto hoiman. By eating food not offered to Krishna, one's mind becomes dushta. Dushta means, Prabhupada translates it in one place, wicked, contaminated. Dushtaman tumi kishir Vaishnava. Polluted mind, what kind of Vaishnava are you? So our minds become polluted by eating food, and especially anna means food generally, and especially grains. And it's understood that by grains, the mentality of the cook and the mentality of the servers and so on is transmitted. So we're eating food cooked by non-devotees and thinking, well, it's vegetarian, but it affects our consciousness. And therefore, devotees are recommended to be strict. Just eat food offered to Krishna, not that vegetarian restaurants for the family or what have you. You should eat Krishna prasadam and be satisfied. Caitanya-caritamrta Krishna Guru. Srimad Chaitanya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Panchatattva Prabhu says the yogi formula for eating is making the stomach 1/2 full with food, 1/4 with water, and 1/4 left empty, which I rarely observe.
It's so important. I was thinking about it. You know, you and I especially think about these things because we're in part of the not quite pandemic and of acid reflux. And the understanding something of the machinery is so important. If you've got a little stove, the circulation of air is crucial. The fire will go out without air. So if we fill up the stomach 100%, the fire will go out because there's no air to circulate with which to digest. Water is also needed for digestion. So if there's no room for water, no room for air, how will digestion take place? So as Panchatattva said, the yogi formula, really it's a formula for everyone, not just for yogis, but for anyone who wants to be healthy. Fill up the stomach half full, and then water, which doesn't mean afterwards you drink a quarter of water. That's also another program for disease, pouring water on the fire. But some portion of water should be included, some portion of food, and then some portion empty. Important. Thank you, Panchatattva.
Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
Pranams to all. So I wanted to touch on the previous paragraph as well, because we did run out of time. And this line where it talks about, according to the Bhagavatam conclusion, we are sometimes faced with dangerous or miserable conditions without endeavoring for them. And similarly, we may have prosperous conditions without endeavoring for them. And it sort of reminded me of how it's easier said than done, how to see the hand of God, Krishna, in everything. And it reminded me of the time when my family had to very quickly leave Uganda when Idi Amin took over. And this is like in the 1969/70. A lot of people didn't even make it out of there, but basically that journey from rags to riches is very easy to recite compared to the riches to rags. Some people can't tolerate that, and I know some people committed suicide because they just couldn't accept that, going from riches to rags, so to speak. And our home, well, I shouldn't say our home, but the house that we lived in had like 2.5 rooms, and every day, because of this massive exodus out of Uganda, people that we didn't really even know would show up on our doorstep, and they would be saying, "Oh, Jai Shri Krishna," and they felt like by saying that would mean they can gain entry into the home. And my mother would say, "Well, they're here, so let them come." So in this little house, 2.5 rooms, there were 15 to 20 people living at any one time. Some people had to gain employment that worked the graveyard shift, so the beds were never empty. It was people would say, oh, we coin it as dharamshala. That's what it in the end became. But my mother would never turn anyone away. She said, that's all right, for whatever reason they're here now. We had a big garden that she worked vigorously to try and grow as much food stuff as possible. But I know my mother, she would be the last one to take prasadam. And I know many nights she would not even have enough prasadam. But she would be the last one to eat. And she would never eat in front of anyone. So no one clued in that she wasn't even really getting that much prasadam. But the reason I'm telling this is because she had this way of putting her hand in God in everything. And because her English was so good, there'd be a big lineup of people coming to have her help fill out the application form for employment. And I remember her saying, well, this application, we're really filling in to become a servant of Srinathji, but he may, you may work in a factory or you may work wherever. It doesn't matter what Srinathji designates in the end, but remember, this application I'm helping you fill out is to serve Krishna. So for whatever reason, she'd set her rules of what this is Srinathji's home, so this is the rules you all have to follow. And recently I met some of the people that had stayed there, and they became very wealthy, actually. They owned stores on Oxford Circus. And when I was in England, they were telling me of how the Harinam party from Soho Street, ISKCON, they come down past his shops, and he said, I always give them something to, because he said, I remember your mother taught us, the very first salary, the very first anything, we have to offer it to Srinathji. So it's very nice to hear that for some people that had stayed with us, that stayed with them. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you so much for sharing that.
That she went mute for some reason. I don't know if she intentionally self-muted or.
I think she just finished.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the neighbors, the British people, they became so envious seeing so many people coming in and out of this house. They went and complained to the health inspectors that came down, and my mother was saying, well, everything belongs to God, and the people in power in the administrative posts, they really should be helping out with the situation that has now resulted with everything that's happened with Idi Amin. And I'm just doing my little bit by not turning anyone away that shows up on my doorstep. But really, you need to go and talk to the people higher up in the administrative posts. That should be really helping them as well, instead of people complaining that it's a health risk. Hare Krishna.
Jai. So the second part of that paragraph spoke about how the devotee should be a muni. And one thing that he says on that point that I liked very much is that he should always think of Krishna and how to render better service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That should be his only anxiety. So he seems to be saying that we can choose our anxiety. There will be anxiety, and we can choose what kind we want. Materialist anxiety is trying to improve, increase. And the devotee's anxiety should always be engaged in improving his condition in Krishna consciousness. So there's always room for improving our condition in Krishna consciousness. So that can be our meditation. That's the flavor of muni that's being recommended here. Maharaj, do you want to address that at all?
In quite a number of places, Prabhupada says that, and also that he's always thinking about how to spread Krishna consciousness. That's part of that's his obsession. How to increase the Krishna consciousness movement, how to give Krishna consciousness to others. So how to be engaged more in service and how to engage others in service. This is the business of a Muni. It's a Nard Muni. He's always thinking about devotional service in this way. Vyas Muni.
So unless there are more comments or questions on this paragraph, we can move on to the next one. I was going to ask whether Panchatattva Prabhu was willing or able to read.
Sure, I'd love to. We'll just post a comment, a quote from Science of Self-Realization about this anxiety business. Prahlad Maharaj continues, there's only one source of anxiety for me. And then Prabhupada says, just see, although he had no anxiety for himself, he still had anxiety. He says, Sochetato vimukha cetasa. I am anxious for those persons who are not Krishna conscious. That is my anxiety. For myself, I have no anxiety. But I'm thinking of those who are, I think it says not Krishna conscious. Why aren't they Krishna conscious? Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvahato Vibhutan. These rascals have created a humbug civilization for temporary happiness. Anyway, continuing. The next item recommended is that a devotee should live in a secluded place. Generally, a common man is interested in pounds, shillings, and pence, or materialistic advancement in life, which is unnecessary for a devotee. A devotee should select a place of residence where everyone is interested in devotional service. Generally, therefore, a devotee goes to a sacred place of pilgrimage where devotees live. It is recommended that he live in a place where there is no large number of ordinary men. It is very important to live in a secluded place, vivikta sharana. The next item is shanta, or peacefulness. The devotee should not be agitated. He should be satisfied with his natural income. Eat only as much as he needs to keep his health. Live in a secluded place and always remain peaceful. Peace of mind is necessary for prosecuting Krishna consciousness. So a simple life, not complicated by material conditions, or at least as little as possible. And in the association of devotees, Prabhupada, of course, created all of these oases in the desert of the material world so that devotees could congregate and associate with each other and be encouraged, because the material world is generally, for a devotee, it's like a vehicle of discouragement. You don't have to become Krishna conscious. You should come here and enjoy in this way. The signs are in your face, the people's activities are in front of you at every moment. You have to. So it's a matter of avoiding. And on the negative side, avoiding. On the positive side, searching out at every opportunity the association of Vaishnavas, similarly minded devotees. And Prabhupada says here, for that purpose, generally, therefore, because wherever you advise to go, where everyone is interested in devotional service. So generally, therefore, a devotee goes to a sacred place of pilgrimage where devotees live. Of course, all of our temples throughout the world really, by definition, are sacred places of pilgrimage where devotees live, and at least where they come and congregate. And there's always ample opportunity, as in terms of one's anxiety, to seek out persons who may be a little interested in Krishna consciousness and give them an opportunity. The temples serve for that purpose as well. Actually, the temples are centers for spiritual education. That's what they are. And that means accepting students and accepting persons who need an education and making an opportunity to give them and canvassing to bring them. So all of that is there. I was thinking, and in terms of anxiety too. I was talking to a devotee here who's had some, interestingly enough, perhaps because of his involvement in business projects here in the Dham, has run up against a host of difficulties. Persons who are after the results of his construction endeavors and want to take over and so forth. So one thing after another has happened, and he's found himself in jail a couple of times on false charges. And and the reason I mention it is because he talked about the prison system, and he said the problem here, at least in parts of certain places in the world, we won't say exactly where, certain places of the world, is that you're more or less presumed guilty unless you're proven innocent. And therefore you can hang due to the problems of the technical problems of the prison system and the judicial system. You can end up hanging out in a prison for up to years before anything is resolved. And he said the problem is some people, they just become so accustomed to that prison life that after some time they stop making much endeavor to escape, or to get, not escape, but to get out, to be released. It becomes their normal. And he was relating it to the material world, how we're here and we've become so conditioned, so accustomed to the daily difficulties and the daily sufferings that we accept it as our standard. And he said, we can't do that. If you want to get out of the material, if you want to do something to get out of this material jail, you have to become Krishna conscious, and you have to make it a very serious business. Because if you're complacent, even temporarily, you can have a setback. So it was a nice realization that he shared with me about his experience in that prison within a prison. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Maharaj, would you like to speak to any of these points?
It's just so important to have the association of devotees. I don't think I'm violating any confidence if I mention that our Bhakta Ross, who's here, is applying to various graduate schools, and his high criteria for choosing, his two criteria are really, one, that they should have a suitable program for what he wants to do, and two, that he should be able to have the association of devotees. So important, particularly for those who are, in the thick of it, whether it's grad school or work or business of some kind. The association of devotees is what keeps us afloat, keeps us on the transcendental platform and mindful of our ultimate purposes. So Bhakta Shanivas, Tandira Chodana Shevi, Bhakta Shanivas. So important to have the association of devotees. What is it? One should prefer to live in with snakes, to embrace a snake or an alligator, to live in a cage of fire, than to have to live in the association of materialistic non-devotees. So everyone give your blessings to Bhakta Ras, that he'll be accepted someplace with a good program and good association.
Daras Prabhu Ki Jai. So nice to see you again. Haribol.
You all. You, Maharaj. You Bhashta Prabhu.
Haribol.
I had a question on this point of not only devotee association, but also the point of anxiety that's being brought up here. And Panchatattva Prabhu gave us that quote from Prahlad Maharaj. And this is similar to a question that Satsvarup Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada. And his question was, is there a level of Krishna conscious practice that one reaches whereupon that he doesn't fall back from? And it seems that while these recommendations are there in the Shastra that one associate with devotees and goes to a sacred place of pilgrimage where devotees live, what Prabhupada did and encouraged others to do was just the opposite, that you become a devotee, then you go someplace where there are no devotees, and you try to find someone who's interested in becoming a devotee. And it has always seemed to me that that level of commitment or advancement is higher than what he speaks of as the general populace. When it comes to being a devotee, being a devotee who has that anxiety like Prahlad Maharaj has. I was wondering, is that a stage of Krishna consciousness that one can reach and not fall back from? Because it seems that until that level of commitment or anartha nivritti is reached, you're too busy dealing with your own karmic reactions to have time to think about outreach. I hope that makes sense. I was just wondering if you might speak to that point at all.
I just got lost at the very end. So a thought entered my mind and derailed me. Could you just repeat the end?
Sure. So is there a point of development in one's own spiritual life where one has this persistent anxiety for the sufferings of others and is no longer constantly dealing with his own karmic reactions and his own anartha nivrittis? Because it seems that's
if he's absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Of course, we want that we should be so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that we're ready to go to any new place. Krishna's there, devotees are there. We just have to excavate that Krishna consciousness. There was one devotee from Hungary back in the communist times, and he was maybe the only devotee there at that time, or there were hardly any. Yeah, in fact, I think very few, whoever he might be preaching to. And Prabhupada, he had some discussion with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said yes, and you should go back to Hungary. And the devotee said, Prabhupada, if I go back, I may not be able to get out again. And Prabhupada said, that's all right. And you go back and spread Krishna consciousness. So we have that confidence that Krishna will protect us. Krishna is everywhere, and Krishna will give his blessings to those who are preaching. Chatasman manusheshu kaschan me priyakritama. At the same time, we shouldn't think that because you mentioned, a point at which we won't, there's no risk of falling. We should never think that we're in that place where there's no risk of falling. There's one incident that Prabhupada was in Los Angeles in his room. Back in the little early days of Watsek Avenue, Prabhupada, you might remember, he had that coat that Jai Sridasi gave him with the peacock feather tassels, and Prabhupada was sitting on his bed, and he had a gold lame bead bag, and Prabhupada said, now so many things are coming to us, so I'm just praying to Krishna that I may not fall down. So that's Prabhupada. Never thought that now I'm the founder Acharya of ISKCON. I'm surrounded by so many devotees. I've achieved so much success. So there's no possibility of falling down. Even he said, I'm praying to Krishna that I may not fall down. But he was out there in the field. He didn't think, let me stay in Vrindavan so that I may not fall down. Even I think from his point of view, to stay in Vrindavan and just cultivate one's own spiritual life was, marginally speaking, a fallen position. At least we could say not the position he wanted to be in. Babaji is advising him, Swamiji, you should never leave Vrindavan. No, he's keen to leave Vrindavan to spread the message of Vrindavan.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Panchatattva Prabhu says, I sometimes think of Srila Prabhupada in that way. Everywhere he went, he made devotees and gave them association. And he also delighted in their association. So we've got a little bit of time. Can we continue? Actually, I was going to say, Ross Prabhu was reading when we left off on Friday. Would you like to read the last paragraph, Ross Prabhu? Do you have that ability?
Yes. Talking about Maitra now?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. The next item is Maitra, friendliness. A devotee should be friendly to everyone, but his intimate friendship should be with devotees only. With others, he should be official. He may say, yes, sir, what you say is all right, but he is not intimate with them. A devotee should, however, have compassion for persons who are innocent, who are neither atheistic nor very much advanced in spiritual realization. A devotee should be compassionate towards them and instruct them as far as possible in making advancement in Krishna consciousness. A devotee should always remain Atmavan, or situated in his spiritual position. He should not forget that his main concern is to make advancement in spiritual consciousness, or Krishna consciousness. And he should not ignorantly identify himself with the body or the mind. Atma means the body or the mind, but here the word Atmavan especially means that one should be self-possessed. He should always remain in the pure consciousness that he is spirit soul and not the material body or the mind. That will make him progress confidently in Krishna consciousness.
Any comments, Prabhu? I like what Prabhupada says here, that with others, he should be official.
And what you say is all right. Yes, yes. What you say is all right. But he doesn't really care what they say. It's Nard's advice to you just here. Prema Maitra Kripopeksha. He has love for, this is the Madhyam devotee. He has love for Krishna, friendship with devotees, mercy for the less advanced, and no time for the antagonists.
this reminded me of a verse, or no, a word in a verse that came up a little earlier in this chapter that was aprasangataha, that one should not intimately associate with those who are not on the path of Krishna consciousness. And it reminded me of the story of the crocodile and the monkey. Crocodile says, "Get on my back, I'll take you across the river." Okay. And then halfway across, "Why are you stopping?" "I'm going to take you home to my wife, and she's going to cut out your heart and eat you for dinner." "Oh, you want my heart? That's in the tree. I have to go back and get it." So this being official and, you could say even standoffish. Sometimes this doesn't fly with some people, like maybe certain family members that want our hearts. And at least I'm finding that out. Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
I'm going to ask a question, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone, but a criticism that I receive often, especially from disciples of Srila, is that I'm extremely naive and that I don't seem to understand that not every single devotee.
You're going in and out there,
Yeah,
Mataji.
Mataji,
Something with your audio is coming in waves.
yeah, there's a lot of noise there, Mata, if you can stabilize your audio somehow.
We didn't hear much of what you were saying.
Okay, I was saying, is this better? Because I'm in a quiet space actually, so I'm not sure what the disturbance would be, but is it clear now?
It's clear now. Just try to not move your microphone.
Yes, I was going to say that a criticism that I seem to receive often, especially from disciples of Srila Prabhupada, is that I'm extremely naive and that I don't seem to understand that not every single devotee has good intentions, and that even if that I should thoroughly study the history of ISKCON and make myself aware of the kind of atrocities that have taken place and not just take every devotee at face value or every person. So they seem to think that I'm so naive, and I am naive, but that's a heavy criticism. That makes me very uncomfortable, because then I start doubting myself and my interactions with devotees. I know in the end we trust in Krishna. He has our best interest at heart, but these criticisms has really unsettled me and made me uncomfortable. It makes me feel like my trust and faith, they're attacking that by saying that I'm so naive and I don't really know much. So I don't know if someone can help me with that, because it's really affected me. Hare Krishna.
Thinking about it. The one thing is to dedicate oneself to all the ins and outs of ISKCON atrocities or scandals or whatever you might call them. There's no end to that. There's no end to that. Or anything you look at, if you want to find all the dirt on anything, there's no end to the dirt that we can, and then our minds will be absorbed in that, which is the business of the flies. The flies seek pus, and the bees seek nectar. So Prabhupada said we should be like the bees. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with being reasonably conversant with the situation of devotional service in this material world, and understanding that it's not utopia. Prabhupada wrote that famous letter to Maitreya Rishi Prabhu, where Maitreya Rishi was complaining, I guess, or expressing that there were so many problems and devotees were not always to the standard. And he said, I think it's due to impersonalism. And Prabhupada said, no, it's due to personalism. Everyone's individual. And then he instructed that one shouldn't expect utopia. Even in the association of devotees, one shouldn't expect utopia. A place where everything is perfect in this material world, where there are no discrepancies, everything's seamless. He said it will be there. He said even in the spiritual world, he said there's madness there too. Krishna is seen, he becomes captivated by Radharani so much so that he begins to try to milk a bull. So he said, what to speak of the material world? The discrepancies will be there, but so follow everything out to its natural conclusion. If we're totally naive and we just accept everything at face value, we may be misled. And at the same time, if we become totally distrusting and totally skeptical and totally defensive, then where will that put us? Or we might ask, where does that put the Prabhupada disciples who are just absorbed in everything that's wrong? Is that where we want to be? Is that really where they wanted to be? Is that why they joined? So they can be absorbed in, this is wrong and that's wrong. Prabhupada, and look at Prabhupada's example. The whole Gaudiya Math fell apart. And I was talking with this about Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, who said that he deliberately, in his biography of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, didn't go into the details of what it meant to fall apart, what what level of confrontation there was. And he described some of it to me, and it's like, ISKCON doesn't have anything over Gaudiya Math in terms of history. And more, Gaudiya Math literally fell apart. It stopped, practically speaking. Whereas ISKCON, for all of its failings, has kept going. So Gaudiya Math fell apart, and yet Prabhupada remained faithful to the mission of his spiritual master, remained enthusiastic, kept going. So, and what was the result? Krishna consciousness is spread all over the world. And it's not because Prabhupada remained, he was realistic about what had happened. He wasn't naive by anyone's standards, and yet he kept going. He kept going. So, I would point to that.
Thank you, Maharaj. Shall we take another comment or go to Kirtan? Let's see. I'll just say Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, argument, since we do not have a temple in our city, and also the cook in the house needs a break once a week, so we should take out our families on Sundays and eat out. But since we follow this strictly, that only once a week, so that would not affect us.
Great, but you're missing the opportunity. The once a week, the whole family can get involved in cooking for Krishna and offering, and so on, since the cook needs a break. The cook's break is our opportunity. Otherwise, once a week, we were hearing that it used to be the system, or still it's the system, that in many temples they serve full prasadam and the householders go. And that's their break, that they'll go to the temple and eat temple prasadam. So do that, follow that example. Take the break and go to the temple and eat prasadam with the devotees, see the deities. So much better than eating out at a restaurant, adopting the karmi mentality of enjoying. Reinforce our identity as servants of Krishna, all family members.
All right.
And we're
Thank you so
definitely
much.
in time.
Yes. Panchatattva Prabhu, are you there to lead us in kirtan for closing?
I'm here and just so satisfied to hear this wonderful class after spending a few days traveling in a tube, 36,000 feet in the sky with some really strange things going on. That's for another time. So glad to hear this class. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. Thank you, Dr. Ross Kemner Prabhu. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Stotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srila Sadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gora Premanande.
Hari Haribol. Thank you so much, Panchatattva Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Ki Jai.
Jai.
Advaita Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Mother Meena. Haribo.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jai Bharapati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.